welcome to FormFast User Group webinar. My name is Philip Blanks, and I will be your host this morning. First, I thank you all for joining us. We know many of you are very busy, so we have designed these brief monthly webinars to give our users some valuable information on our products. And today we'll be joined by our Senior Vice President of Operations, Karen Paul, who will be giving a brief overview of some important new product updates. Also, our Director of Products, Sean Curtis, will bring you our new application spotlight and will introduce you to a new FormFast application. And we'll also discuss upcoming events near the end of the session. Before we get started, here are a few things to go over. First, we want you to get your thoughts and questions throughout the event. Please put them during the Q&A at the end of the presentations or any time in the chat panel on the right side of your screen. At the end, we'll gather all questions at the end of the session. Secondly, be aware that the audio for our meeting will broadcast through your computer speakers. If you have any difficulties with your audio, please send a message to the host, myself, so that I can approve you to join the teleconference. Once connected to the teleconference, make sure your computer speakers are muted, otherwise we'll hear an echo. At the conclusion of this webinar, you will be directed to a page that will allow you to register for next month's webinar. You'll also be able to sign up for a note or an upgrade and also register for our educational webinar series. I'll explain more in the upcoming events. So now to introduce Karen Paul, who will share some of her new product updates to us. So welcome, Karen.
Philip. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and share my desktop here. Welcome, everyone. Yes, I'm going to give you a brief overview of some of the new things that are out in our software that you may or may not be aware of, and some of the things coming out in our new release. I'm going to touch the first three here that you're seeing on your screen, the Form Designer, the Print Manager, and Web Form Imprint. And then my colleague, Sean Curtis, will take you into new things in the fast flow. So we're just going to jump into the form design software. Some of this is not brand new, so you may be aware of it, but I'm going to go over it just to be certain. One of the new things we added not too long ago was just an easier way for you to save your forms, especially when those forms are ready to be data mapped to them to be put into our next module. It used to be if I needed to save this as a PRN, I would have to go down to print, I would have to pick the printer and print a file, etc. And so we've simplified that for you and made that a simple single click. And if I just click that, I actually get a standard Save As screen, and I can choose my PRN. It will automatically create that using the correct printer driver, etc. It's one simple way, if you don't know that's out there, to save your forms more simply when you put your PRN files. If you are a fast flow user, which means you're using our online workflow routing, and you do use the same software to create the forms, same thing. I used to have to click the File button and do a Save As and pick the PDF type. We did that at a simple click for you as well. You just click that. You'll get the same type of flow, except you'll be saving it as a PDF, and you hit Save. So those are just a couple simple things you may or may not be aware of. And just two more little things. I show you the Redistribute. This is somewhat of a new feature. You'll see on the screen here I have some nice data lined up. However, my checkboxes are not. Rather than me have to drag these individually, I can use the Redistribute tool. So what I do is I make my top checkbox and my bottom checkbox where I want, and then I just use the Redistribute tool, and it lines them up nice and neat for me. And of course, I can do that horizontally as well. So same thing here. I have a bunch of my scanners say put these in and didn't put them in the right location. I move them in the account label where I want it, and then I use the horizontal Redistribute, and it lines it up all nice and neat for me. So just a couple of things that you may not be aware of, since those are somewhat new to the software. I'm going to move into the Print Manager, and there has been some more changes to this, important ones, and that's that this has now been written as a service. So for those of you who have lots of print managers running you know you have to log on to your console every time to get those launched. This will no longer be the case. It's going to operate as a service much like your clock does on your computer. So when you log off that server, you do not need to log back in to the desktop to get the application to run. So basically we have a new client now to help me manage my job sets. In this case, I'm looking at an accounts payable, an admissions, an MDS, and a payroll job set. So in the system, you would have 5 icons on your desktop that you would launch each time you needed to get those to run. now run as a service, and so all of these will automatically start as long as the service is running. And in my case, it says running there, so my service is active. If I hit stop, it would stop all job sets. So rather than exiting out of 3 individual managers in this case, or 4, they would automatically all stop when I stop the service. You'll notice the MDS application job set is grayed out. It's not active right now, but I can make that active by simply clicking on it and hitting start. And now that becomes an active job set, and so all of these are running. Again, I decided to shut all of them down. It's a simple click here, and I've stopped all those job sets from running. I can look at settings of my service that's running. So it will log errors for me. It will also tell my search paths. So I've told the system, go here to find the job sets. If you have job sets in your system somewhere else, I could add another path. And to that, they would appear in my box here. All of these would be active. So I can look at things about this. So if I want to look at my admissions, I can hit my settings button here, and it'll tell me things about this admissions job set that's running. So a couple new things. This you've seen if you're familiar with the Print Manager. This is how it's telling quickly to find files. This is a new feature. I'm allowed to remove unsortable files from the collector. On the current system, if somebody sends data, in this case, to the admissions job set that is not valid data, it'll sit there forever. The collector will keep trying to be processed and see if it can process that file. In case, it will go through and say, this file does not meet any criteria for any job, and it'll go ahead and delete that file. So you don't get those junk files collecting up, wasting space in your collector. Another one now is you have the ability to keep files out there for longer. So if you're doing testing and you don't want to delete the file as soon as it's been processed, or you want to just delete it, which is an option you have now, it'll let you choose a number of days. So I can say, gee, I'm going to do testing for the next week, and I'll keep those out there for 3, 4, or 5 days, and have those files out there to play with, reprocess through if I need to. Feature added in logging now, right? The Print Manager logs to a text file, and I've added the ability to log to a database. So if I wanted to keep a log of maybe all the printers that files go to, or what jobs or merges you're printing, that can all be put into a database now rather than just into a file. And then, of course, you could do queries on that, do reports, things like that, like you could from any, database. And then you'll see your dispositions, and those are the standard things. This is how I turn my printing on. Am I doing emailing? So these are things that appear in the job Print Manager now. It's just that now I'm managing it all from within this one client. And so, of course, I clicked admissions. I'm seeing admissions. If I clicked another one, I'd see, the options for it. So this now will be your new panel for monitoring this service and make sure things run. And I want to show you another nice thing I can do. That's that I can actually launch into the Print Job Designer right from here. So if I needed to make changes to the admissions job set, I could actually launch here. It would take me to the location for admissions in this case, and I could open up any jobs, any merges, make the changes that I need to change. Also, I can go to the folder, located here, and it'll take me right to the directory admissions, that admissions job set, is located. And then the settings is just the settings that I showed here. So anyway, this is going to be the new module for monitoring all of those job sets. So instead of having multiple Print Managers running, you'll have one service running. I'll get this all set up however I want, and when I exit off of this, the service will continue to run. So that's a big improvement. No more logging in, no more worrying about people getting into different remote sessions and logging off and stopping services, things like that. So that's kind of a nice new feature for that. The system will process. One thing I should mention is the Print Manager now will multi-thread, so you will get faster processing because it will grab many at once, not just right now. Each printer is single-threaded. You'll be able to process faster, more job sets, things like that at a much faster speed. I want to move into web form imprint because we've had some pretty neat changes there as well. So those of you who are running the current version, it looks like this. And we decided that we're wasting some space here. So for example, my printer location, my location drop-down, how I search for things, all of this is taking up unnecessary space, limiting, what I can put on my grid here. So we've made a new look to it. So this is a new and improved look. And with all of those options, such as the location, the printer drop-downs, all of those things up across the top here, giving more space for the grid. Also took the add record option. I'm an administrator, so I can do edits and deletes. The add used to appear here as well, which took more space from the grid, so we put that, for one option here. We move the buttons so that they're in logical order. It used to be I'd click my job, I'd click my patient, and I'd jump way over here for the print button. Move that and put that here. The two features that are most often used, pick job, picking the patient and doing printing, or electronic signing. So we can make it more compact, give you more space, and make the interface a little easier to use. The other thing done is we've now made movable frames. You'll notice here I cannot see all of the names of my jobs because they're too long and my grid is in the way. So I can now click and I can now drag that grid, and now I can see all of those names. So things that I can do to make this easier to use.
Hey Karen, we're not able to see your slides.
Slides?
No, I've seen them since the web form and print screen.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I'll wait and let me go back. Make sure it's still going on. I'm still sharing. Tell me, Sean, what you're seeing.
Okay. We see a screen now.
Okay.
We see screens when you start web form and print.
All right. I need to go back.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Here's this. Are you seeing this one with a new improved look?
Yes.
Okay. So let me go to this one. So is everybody seeing this one? We're ending view.
Yeah, we see it, but it's changed over.
Wow.
Yeah, it's something weird. But
I hope nobody's having that problem. So if I can drag, are you seeing that now, Philip?
No.
Okay. Don't know what to do about that.
You can go ahead and continue though.
No. Anyway, for those of you who can see it, it lets me move the grid over so I can see my full job names. Sean, seeing where it says favorites now, easier favorites? Or you're not either?
I see it fine. Maybe we can just ask the attendees if they have any issue with seeing it, they can raise their hand so we have a kind of a count of who might be behind on this. It's in the participants window if they can access that, and then raise your hand.
Try to talk slower.
We're having a few right now that are having some connection issue, it seems like.
Okay.
It may just slow us down a little bit. We'll keep moving forward, but just spend a little more time on each slide.
Try. All right. Hopefully you're seeing my screen where it says these are your favorites. It used to be that if I wanted to put a job in favorites, and favorites, for those of you who don't have it, is a list of the forms that I print most often from Form and Print. So I can put my specific list of the forms that I want to see. It used to be I would click this, I would go over to the favorites screen, and I'd say add to favorites and hit click. Made that more simple. So if I just click on this patient rights and responsibilities, and hopefully it comes up and it just asks me, do I want to add that to my favorites? Add, it'll come, you'll see it populated right in my favorites screen. If you're not seeing that, I'm sorry, but basically it's just an easy way I can now go and pick any jobs that I want. I just right click on them, add it to favorites, and it'll pop up there. Another big improvement in Form Imprint is that we now support local printing. And it means that I can now print to the default printer of the user making the request. It used to be that you had to put all the printers basically on the server hosting that hosted web Form Imprint. And now I no longer need to do that. It'll actually use the user's default printer. So if I click the form like the patient rights and responsibilities and append, and I hit my print button, It'll say print to local there if I'm set up that way, and it will now go to the user's default Windows default printer. In addition to that, the user can change the Windows default printer, go to the new printer. So more maintenance for the person maintaining WebForm Imprint because they don't have to worry about getting those printers installed, and probably easier for the user to understand. They have to drop down and pick a printer because it'll just default to their local printer. You can try that by picking a printer, but this will be the default in most cases now, print to local. Philip, are we seeing screens at all?
Yes, everything now.
Okay. All right. Next, I want to move to electronic signing, and that's new features in this as well. It used to be that you signed anywhere on the form or anywhere the particular device set up for. We've now added the ability to annotate on the form, so I can type in here on fields. I have required fields now where this is red. Those are fields that must be entered, or this form will not go to an imaging system if we were passing it off. Blue fields are optional. So the form I'm showing has a little red thumbnail, red dot under the thumbnail here, and that's telling me that this form is not complete, that it has required fields, such as these red fields, that have been completed. So this form is not done. If I form with a blue dot, it's saying the required fields have been filled in. So in this case, we typed in Jane Doe. She did a signature. And the other required field was this electronic stamp. By right-clicking, hitting self-sign, the registrars logged in as appears here in the date and time that they electronically signed this form. So this is a nice way for them to witness a form without having to pass the device back and forth. Of course, there's germs and things involved in that as you pass them back and forth. But this is telling me, this blue dot, that this form is done. It would go to imaging. However, it's warning me I have a field here that is not complete, and I want to look at that. It's not a required field, but it is a field. And then green shows me the form completed. I've got my data typed in. I've filled in all the signature fields. I have a couple check boxes, and I've electronically signed it. So every required field as well as every optional field has been filled in here, and so I'll get a green dot. When I hit done, the green and the blue would go off to an imaging system. The red would not, because it would tell you it's not complete. So lots of new things in WebForm Imprint, or e-signature part of it, and that I can type on forms. I can do multiple signatures, I can do check boxes, and I can self-sign things. So a lot of additions there. One thing I do want to mention is that we can now take pictures. We've now added that to the web. It was a non-web version, but it's now in the web version. So I get a camera up here now, and if I'd had a camera hooked, I could take a person's picture as I'm admitting them or wherever. A thumbnail would appear with their picture, and that would be available for forms later. So that's new for this. So I can also print directly from within this. So if you're one of those hospitals that is able to automatically launch into our e-signing client, and you don't really see that grid of patients, but you print something for this particular patient, I can hit the documents grid, and it will appear, and I can pick any forms that I want to print, and the print button, and print those with this patient information of the patient I've got the signing screen up for, automatically without even leaving the signing client. So those are some of the new features within WebForm Imprint as well. Lots more E-Sig, much pretty look, and the ability to print and take pictures now. So that's the presentation. Those are the highlights there, and and I think you can put questions in. We'll answer those at the end. And Philip, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, Karen. Again, we apologize for the technical difficulties, but I think it should be right now. So again, we're going to hold off on all questions until the end of the presentation, but in the meantime, you can go ahead and ask the questions in the chat on the right side. So go ahead and turn it over to Sean at this point. He's going to go ahead and speak on our new application spotlight.
If you can make me presenter, I'll share my desktop. Thanks. Okay, sorry, it's taking just a second to get my desktop shared here. There we have the mountain scene, and I'm going to go into my virtual machine and log on to FastFlow. So I'm going to show, and this is a little bit different than what we usually do for webinars. This is more of a product spotlight for our customers, so I'm going to go into just one specific area and kind of talk just about that. We've had a full-on webinar in the past that introduced version 5.0 and a lot of the features within that. But I'm going to just kind of dig into one of the neat and driving features that we did when we built out version 5.0. So you can see I'm on my demonstration system here, and I'm in version 5.0.6, which is our latest version. And what I'm going to talk about is, how we have evolved this solution. We started out with a solution that was for managing documents, and we created documents in categories, and then we added workflow to that, building workflow so that you could move those documents through some processes, archive those, and access those, and share those and output those in different ways, collecting data and things like that. Next, we built what was called our RAC audit dashboard, which is now really our insurance audit or audit dashboard, which lets you track an entire process through this workflow life cycle. Process of creating that RAC dashboard, we came up with the concept of making it easier to build more dashboards. We realized that while RAC audit is a very complex, big kind of workflow process that occurs in hospitals, there are other businesses that are happening as well that need to be tracked in patients. So let's make it easy for us to make dashboards or applications beyond being just a dashboard and into becoming what we call applications. So now in this version we have a tab here called Applications. That appears if we've created an application specific for you. So I clicked into the coding query dashboard. Really, dashboard is just 1/5 of what we did. So dashboard is going to show you everything that is in process. So whether you're involved in the process or not, let's say you are the manager. So coding query, a lot of you are already familiar with that, where we're coding a medical record for billing purposes. And something is quite in the record, maybe we don't have enough documentation, maybe we need some clarification, it just doesn't look right at all. What happens is the coders then send messages to physicians through flow. Physicians enter responses, return that to the coders read the response, and go back and forth as long as it has to, and then the end is we're going to save that information into a database and send that to your imaging system, your medical record, if we have to. This can be managed by an site. So let's say you may be the coding manager, so you want to know how much of this process is happening in your organization. How often are these happening? Are there times? Are there things that are not being done? And so that's what this dashboard view really is. It gives you the ability to create a view of everything that's what we call in flight. So it's not done yet. So somebody has started a query and it is somewhere in the process but has not been completed yet. So in this particular dashboard, we're showing that we have coding queries that have been outstanding, days old, for 968 days all the way down to 44 days. We had the ability for you to highlight certain things on this dashboard based on logic. So this was a greater than, less than, apply color to this cell. We can do that on any of these cells. We can apply different types of logic. Maybe it's based on the words in the cell. Maybe it's based on the numbers in the cell. Different types of information. We can highlight that for you. So if you can see things that might be important to you that you would want to above, you can create that dashboard so that it does that. So I can also open these workflow. So I'm not necessarily involved in this workflow. I could open one of these up and actually see the current state of that query, the form of the document, see it. Also in this grid view, I can see in my dashboard who is holding on to that right now, so I can take action that way as well. And I can see that in its process. These are the steps. It has 3 steps to go through, and this particular one is on the first step of 3. And this down here is on the first step of 2. Give you that quick view of everything that's going on as far as the process is concerned, and what's in flight is what we've got in the applications view. I said that's 1/5 of what we've done. The other part that we've done is taken and given you a specific inbox, specific documents for just those applications, and specific archives for just those applications, and specific reports just for those applications. So I've jumped out of my application. So if I want reporting for just coding query, I have a list of reports for query. I can pick on that right here, and it's going to give up this report that says coding query form usage per doctor. So these are my physicians here, and these are the coding queries that have come to those physicians. So we can see what the activity levels are per physician. We have, of course, as you know, with FastFlow, we're collecting granular data from every form that's processed through the system. So we know, what the was, what the occurrence, what the that trigger this was. Up here, it's COPD, sepsis. We know the physicians involved. We also know the coders involved. We know the locations involved. We know anything that you put onto that form. We can create some reporting and analytics on that, so that then you can start looking at maybe there's a training issue around a certain type of procedure that you would probably point to your physicians or to your coders, or maybe additional documentation that needs to be done, or maybe there's one doc that seems to be across the board causing this issue, or one coder across the board who's causing this issue. It's about being able to look at your data and then improve that process by either training or documentation or whatever steps you need to take. And so that's why the whole concept of applications in FormFast has evolved to have all of this for not just the users involved in the process, but for the executives who need to control that process and understand that process. Currently, we have a workflow, a building tool within FastFlow so that you can build out these and modify and customize the dashboards. There is a little bit of a service involved with that to help you get access to the data that you want. So we basically work with you to specify what the dashboard should look like, and we work with you to create that in FastFlow. And then once we've done that initially, we turn it over to you to where then you can start modifying that and really working with that as well. So basically, that's what I wanted to show today. And here's another view of the dashboard with physician names, and we've done some highlighting, some logic that shows exactly where those or deviations from the standard process are at. That's really one feature that I wanted to show today, and the theme of this monthly webinar that Philip's going to be talking about in a few minutes is really digging more deeply into the problem, showing some different features. So rather than an entire overview, I want to dig into one thing at a time. So stay tuned to the upcoming webinars as well for more, and I'll turn it over to Philip with that.
All right, thank you so much, Sean, for that. Hopefully you all found some interesting information there. So now I would like to go ahead and open the floor for any questions that you all may have. If you have not already done so, please enter your questions in the chat on the right, and we'll go ahead and get them answered now. We already have a few questions that came in, so we'll go ahead and start with those first. So this question was, how do I get the new version of Form Designer? And I'll go ahead and direct it over to Karen.
To do is you just need to write an email to FormFast requesting that. We verify that you're a valid user, and then you will be given an FTP link email back with a user and password and instructions on to get that downloaded to your system and installed. But you can just write to tech support at formfast.com, and we will take care of it.
All right, great. And the next question we have is, I want the new version of web form imprint, and how can I get it?
Same thing. We've just now released that, so you should be getting a general email out telling you about that. But same thing, if you're ready for it now and want to install it, just go ahead and send an email, and same thing. We'll give you a link to the FTP site, and you can download the software. There's also a document out there that goes over the new features that I showed you today.
Okay, great. And can we organize the favorite in groups in web form imprint?
Favorites in web form imprint can be displayed in one of two ways. One, it'll show the whole name across, and it does not put them in categories. You
can make your favorites display in a tree structure, much like the standard tree. So you can set separate groups for your favorites, but I picked 2 favorites and they're in a category called charts. It can display in the tree, so that chart category can show in the form favorites tree, and you'd have your jobs under that. So 2 options there.
Okay. And Bernard asks, can we print to non-HP printers such as Xerox?
Yes, you can. Any PCL compatible printer, and then 5 or 6 different thermal printers as well. But yeah, we are not product specific, so we print to HPs, Lexmarks, Ricos, and pretty much any Dells, pretty much any printer out there that can support PCL, which at this point is really laser printer out there. So if you're having problems or whatever with one, let us know, or if you need help with tray calls on them. Certain things vary between each other. Just let us know, call into tech support, and we'll help you.
Okay, great. If there are any other questions, what we'll do is you can contact me, the host, and I'll go ahead and put information up towards the end on the slide. But what we'll do is we'll go ahead and go into our upcoming events. This user group will feature an in-depth look into web form imprint as well as our fast flow solution. The link to this webinar will be provided on the next page. To register for the entire user group webinar series, please visit formfast.com/userwebinars. And as mentioned earlier, you can register for our FormFast educational webinar series. This is a webinar series which will feature sessions on important trends and initiatives in healthcare, as well as solutions to any challenges you may be facing at your hospital. The upcoming webinar titled The Future of Healthcare will feature health IT futurist Jeff Bauer. It's scheduled for Tuesday, April 17th at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. This registration link for this webinar will also be provided on the next page, but to register for the entire educational webinar series, you can visit formfast.com/webinars. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. We hope you have found this information to be useful and also encouragement for you to upgrade to some of the new products that we have available. If you would like a copy of the slides or the recording of this webinar, please contact myself at pblanks@formfast.com. Also, that's listed on this slide right now. And if the application you saw demonstrated that you'd like more information on, set up a personal demo or meeting for you and your team on the following page. So again, thank you for your attendance, and we'll see you next month.